I never thought I'd be the guy who stayed after class ended. I was always the first one out, grabbing my towel and heading straight to the showers before anyone could ask me to hang around. But that Tuesday in late September, something changed. The pool was empty. The other students had cleared out 20 minutes ago, and I was still sitting on the edge with my feet dangling in the chlorinated water, watching Coach Ezra pack up the rescue equipment. He looked up and caught me staring. My heart did this stupid little flip thing that I'd been trying to ignore for 3 weeks now. "You okay, Marcus?" His voice echoed off the tile walls, soft but concerned. "Yeah, I scrambled for an excuse. I wanted to ask about the CPR certification. You mentioned it last week." It wasn't a complete lie. He had mentioned it. But I'd memorized every word he'd said in every class since the semester started, so that wasn't exactly newsworthy for me. Ezra walked over, his bare feet leaving wet prints on the deck. He was maybe 5 years older than me, which at 22 and 27 felt like nothing and everything at the same time. He'd been a competitive swimmer before a shoulder injury ended his career, and now he taught advanced swimming and water safety at the university. His hair was dark and wavy when it wasn't slicked back from the pool, and he had this way of looking at you like you were the only person in the room, which was currently true, but still. "The CPR course?" He sat down beside me, close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating from his skin despite the cool air in the natatorium. "Yeah, I'm running a weekend intensive next month. You interested?" "Maybe. I don't know. Is it hard?" He smiled. And God, that smile. It was crooked, slightly self-deprecating, like he found his own enthusiasm embarrassing. The concepts are straightforward. Chest compressions, rescue breathing, using an AED. The hard part is staying calm in an emergency. "Have you ever had to do it? Like, for real?" His expression shifted, became more serious. "Twice. Once at a beach when I was 19. A kid got caught in a riptide. And once at a community pool 3 years ago. Older man, heart attack. Did they make it?" "The kid did. The man didn't." He looked down at the water, at the light dancing across its surface. "That's why I take the training seriously. It's not just a certification to check off a list. It's the difference between being able to help or being useless when someone needs you most." I nodded, feeling the weight of that. We sat in silence for a moment, and I became hyper-aware of how close we were sitting. His leg was maybe 3 inches from mine. I could close that distance so easily, just lean a little to the left. I didn't, obviously, because I was a coward who hadn't even fully admitted to himself what was happening. "You're a strong swimmer, Marcus," Ezra said, breaking the silence. "One of the best in the class. You have good instincts in the water. That matters more than people realize." The compliment made my chest feel tight. "Thanks. I've been swimming since I was a kid. My mom put me in lessons when I was 5, and I just never stopped." "It shows. You're comfortable in a way that can't be taught." He paused, then added, "You should consider lifeguard certification, too. We're always looking for qualified people, and the pay is decent." "Maybe." I was looking at his hands, at the way his fingers drummed absently against the tile. He had nice hands, strong but elegant. I wondered what they would feel like touching me with intention, not just the casual correction of my form during drills. Jesus Christ, Marcus. Get it together. "Anyway," I said, starting to stand up. "I should probably head out. I've got a paper due tomorrow that I haven't started." "Wait." Ezra stood too, and suddenly we were facing each other, close enough that I had to tilt my head back slightly to meet his eyes. "Since you're interested in the CPR stuff, and since everyone else is gone, do you want to go through some basics? I have the training dummy in my office. It's not the same as the full course, but I could show you the fundamentals." My brain short-circuited. "Now? If you have time." "No pressure. I just thought, since you're curious." He trailed off, and for the first time since I'd known him, he looked uncertain, almost nervous. "Okay," I heard myself say. "Yeah, that would be great." His office was small, tucked behind the equipment room, with a window that looked out over the pool. The CPR dummy was laid out on a mat in the corner, its blank face staring at the ceiling. Ezra grabbed 2 towels from a cabinet and tossed me one. "You're still dripping," he said with a slight smile. I dried off quickly, trying not to think about the fact that we were alone in this small space, both of us in nothing but swim trunks. The air felt charged somehow, electric with something I didn't want to name. Ezra knelt beside the dummy and gestured for me to join him. "Okay, so the basics. You've probably seen this in movies, but it's usually done wrong. First thing you do is check for responsiveness." He demonstrated, gently shaking the dummy's shoulders. "Call their name, check if they react. If they don't, you call for help. In a real situation, you point to a specific person and tell them to call 911. Don't just yell for someone to do it, because everyone will assume someone else is handling it." I nodded, watching his hands, his face, the way he moved with practiced confidence. "Next, you check for breathing. Tilt the head back slightly. Put your ear near their mouth and nose. Look for chest rise. Listen for breath sounds. Feel for air movement. You've got about 10 seconds to determine if they're breathing normally." He looked up at me, and our eyes met, held. Something passed between us in that moment, something unspoken but undeniable. "If they're not breathing," he continued, his voice slightly rougher, "you start compressions. 30 compressions, then 2 rescue breaths. You keep that cycle going until help arrives or they start breathing on their own." He positioned his hands on the dummy's chest, demonstrating the proper placement and technique. It's hard work. You're compressing at least 2 inches deep, about 100 to 120 compressions per minute. People get tired fast. "Can I try?" I asked. "Sure." He moved aside and I took his place beside the dummy. He knelt close behind me, close enough that I could feel his breath on my shoulder as he watched. "Hands here," he said, reaching around to adjust my position. His fingers wrapped around my wrists, guiding me. "One hand on top of the other, interlace your fingers. You want to use your body weight, not just your arms. Lock your elbows." I could barely concentrate on his instructions. Every point of contact between us felt like fire. His chest was almost against my back. His hands on my wrists were gentle but firm. I could smell chlorine and something else, something that was just him. "Now compress," he said, his voice close to my ear. "Hard and fast. Don't be tentative about it. In a real situation, you might break ribs, but that's better than the alternative." I started compressions, trying to focus on the rhythm and depth. After 30, I stopped and looked at him. "Good," he said. He hadn't moved back. We were still close, too close for this to be just instruction. Now the rescue breaths. This is where people get squeamish, but you can't hesitate. Tilt the head back, lift the chin, pinch the nose closed. Make a seal with your mouth over theirs and give 2 breaths, each about 1 second long. You should see the chest rise. He demonstrated on the dummy, and I watched his mouth, watched the way his lips formed a seal, the gentle rise of the dummy's chest. When he finished, he looked at me again. "Your turn." I leaned over the dummy, positioned the head, pinched the nose. But before I could deliver the breath, Ezra spoke. "Marcus." His voice was quiet, almost hesitant. "Can I ask you something?" I sat back on my heels, my heart pounding. "Yeah? Why did you really stay after class today?" The question hung in the air between us. I could lie. I could make up something about wanting extra practice or being concerned about water safety. But the way he was looking at me, the vulnerability in his eyes, made me want to be honest. "I wanted to talk to you," I admitted. "I've wanted to talk to you for weeks, but I didn't know how, or what I'd even say." "Talk to me about what?" I took a breath. This was it. The moment where I either said the truth or retreated back into safety. About why I can't stop thinking about you. About why I get to class 15 minutes early just to watch you set up. About why every time you correct my form or demonstrate a technique, I lose my mind a little bit. The silence that followed felt endless. Ezra's expression was unreadable, and panic started to creep in. I'd just ruined everything. I'd misread the situation completely. He was going to tell me this was inappropriate, that he was my instructor, that I needed to leave. But then he smiled. That crooked, beautiful smile that I'd been memorizing for 3 weeks. I thought I was imagining it, he said softly. I kept telling myself I was projecting, that you were just a dedicated student and I was reading things that weren't there. You weren't imagining it. I noticed you the first day of class, he continued. You were wearing that blue shirt and you were early, sitting on the bleachers looking nervous. And I thought, don't do this, Ezra. Don't notice students like that. It's not professional. It's not appropriate. He laughed, a quiet sound. But then you got in the water and you moved like you belonged there, and I could not notice you. So what do we do? I asked. Because I'm pretty sure there are rules about this. There are. He ran a hand through his hair, a nervous gesture I'd never seen from him before. I can't date students in my classes. It's a clear policy. My heart sank. Oh. But, he continued, and his eyes met mine again. The semester ends in 2 months, and after that, you won't be my student anymore. 2 months is a long time. It is. He shifted closer, and now we were face to face, kneeling on the mat with the forgotten CPR dummy beside us. But I've waited this long to meet someone who makes me feel like this. I can wait a little longer to do it right. What if I can't wait? The words came out before I could stop them, bold and reckless. Ezra's breath caught. For a long moment, we just looked at each other, the tension between us thick enough to touch. Then he reached out slowly, giving me time to pull away if I wanted to. His hand cupped my jaw, his thumb brushing across my cheekbone. Marcus, he whispered, and my name had never sounded like that before, like something precious. Yeah. I'm going to do something incredibly unprofessional, he said. And if you want me to stop, just say so. I couldn't speak, could barely breathe. I just nodded. He leaned in slowly, giving me every opportunity to change my mind. But I didn't want to change my mind. I wanted this more than I'd wanted anything in a long time. When his lips finally met mine, soft and tentative and perfect, something inside me clicked into place. This was what I'd been missing. This was what I'd been too scared to admit I wanted. The kiss was gentle at first, almost questioning. But when I kissed him back, when I reached up to tangle my fingers in his hair, it deepened. His other hand found my waist, pulling me closer, and I went willingly. We were still kneeling on the mat, surrounded by life-saving equipment and the smell of chlorine, and it was perfect. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Ezra rested his forehead against mine. We can't do this again, he said, but his hands were still on me, contradicting his words. Not until the semester is over. I could lose my job. I know. I did know, but it didn't make it easier. I won't say anything. I promise. It's not about that. I trust you. He pulled back slightly to look at me properly. It's about doing this right. You deserve better than secret meetings and hiding. When we do this, I want to be able to take you out properly. I want to hold your hand in public and not worry about who's watching. The fact that he was already thinking in terms of when, not if, made my heart race. 2 months, I said. 2 months. He smiled. Think you can handle having me as your instructor for that long, knowing this is waiting on the other side? I'll manage, but you're going to have to stop looking at me like that during class. Like what? Like you're thinking about kissing me again. His smile turned mischievous. I'm always thinking about kissing you again. I'll just have to get better at hiding it. We stayed there for a while longer, just talking. He told me about his swimming career, about the injury that ended it and the depression that followed, about how teaching had saved him, given him purpose again. I told him about coming out to my family last year, about my mom's immediate acceptance and my dad's slower, more complicated journey toward understanding. About my best friend Sarah, who'd known I was gay before I did and had been aggressively supportive ever since. "What's your major?" he asked at one point, and I realized how little we knew about each other outside of the pool. "English literature. I want to teach high school, maybe." "Really? That's great. We need good teachers," says the guy who's literally a teacher. "A coach," he corrected with a smile. "There's a difference." "Not much of one." Eventually we had to leave. The building would be closing soon and someone would come to lock up. We gathered our things and Ezra walked me out to the parking lot. The night air was cool after the humidity of the pool, and I shivered slightly. "You okay getting home?" he asked. "Yeah, I'm just across campus in the North Dorms." "Text me when you get there." I looked at him in surprise. "We don't have each other's numbers." "Oh, right." He pulled out his phone, looking slightly embarrassed. Is it okay if I give you mine?" We exchanged numbers, and I immediately saved his contact as just Ezra with no last name, no indication that he was my instructor, just in case. "Marcus," he said as I started to walk away. I turned back. "Thank you for staying today, for being honest. Thank you for not freaking out. I've been wanting to have that conversation for weeks. I just didn't think I'd actually get to." I smiled. "See you in class Thursday?" "See you Thursday." The next 2 months were the longest and shortest of my life. Every class was torture and heaven combined. I had to watch Ezra demonstrate techniques, feel his hands correcting my form, listen to his voice echoing off the pool walls, all while knowing what his kiss felt like, knowing what it felt like to be held by him. But we were careful, so careful. In class, he treated me exactly like every other student. No special attention, no lingering looks. We'd agreed on that. The only time we let ourselves break was in the texts we sent late at night, long conversations about everything and nothing. He told me about his favorite books, his family in Oregon, his dreams of maybe coaching at a national level someday. I told him about my writing, the novel I'd been working on for 2 years, my complicated relationship with my younger brother. We learned each other in pieces, in stolen moments of digital communication, and the anticipation built like a wave, growing stronger with each passing week. Sarah figured it out, of course. She always did. "You're seeing someone," she announced one night while we were studying in the library. "I'm not." "You are. You have that look. That stupid, dreamy, I'm falling in love look." "I don't have a look." "Marcus, I've known you since freshman year. You absolutely have a look." She leaned forward, eyes bright with curiosity. "So who is it? Do I know him?" "There's no him." "Liar. Come on, tell me. I promise I won't judge." I wanted to tell her. I wanted to tell someone because keeping this secret was killing me. But I'd promised Ezra. "It's complicated," I finally said. "And I can't really talk about it yet. But soon, okay? I promise I'll tell you everything soon." She studied my face for a long moment, then nodded. "Okay. But when you're ready, I want all the details. And I mean all of them." Finals week arrived faster than I expected. My last class with Ezra was on a Wednesday afternoon, the pool session followed by a written exam on water safety protocols. I finished the test early and sat there, pretending to review my answers while really just watching him grade papers at his desk. When the last student finally left, he looked up at me. "Done?" he asked, his voice carefully neutral. Yeah. I stood, bringing my test to his desk. Our fingers brushed as he took it from me, a brief contact that sent electricity through my entire body. I'll have grades posted by Friday, he said. Then, quieter. Saturday night, if you're free. I'm free. 7 o'clock. I'll pick you up at your dorm. Okay. We looked at each other for a long moment. 2 months of wanting and waiting stretched between us. Then I forced myself to turn and walk out of the pool building for the last time as his student. Saturday took forever to arrive. I changed my outfit 3 times, drove Sarah crazy asking for advice, and was waiting outside my building 15 minutes early. When Ezra's car pulled up, my heart started pounding so hard I thought I might pass out. He got out to meet me, and God, he looked good. Dark jeans, a button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled up, his hair styled instead of wet from the pool. He smiled when he saw me, that crooked smile I'd been dreaming about. Hey, he said. Hey, you look great. So do you. We stood there like awkward teenagers for a moment, and then we both laughed. This is weird, right? I said. We've been texting for 2 months, but this feels like a first date. It is a first date. He opened the passenger door for me, and I'm nervous as hell if that makes you feel better. It did, actually. He took me to a small Italian restaurant downtown, the kind of place with checkered tablecloths and candles in wine bottles. We sat across from each other, and for the first time, we could just be 2 people on a date. No worrying about who might see us, no rules being broken. The conversation flowed easily, picking up where our texts had left off. We talked about his plans for the summer, about my internship at a local high school, about books and movies and music, about all the normal things people talk about when they're getting to know each other. I have a confession, Ezra said over dessert. That day you stayed after class, when I offered to show you CPR basics. I'd been trying to figure out how to get you alone for weeks. When you asked about the certification, it felt like a sign. Really? Because I'd been psyching myself up to talk to you for days. I almost chickened out like 6 times. I'm glad you didn't. He reached across the table and I met him halfway, our fingers intertwining. I'm really glad you didn't. After dinner, we walked through the downtown area, past shops and cafes and groups of college students enjoying their Saturday night. Ezra held my hand the entire time, open and unashamed, and I felt something in my chest expand. This was what he'd meant about doing it right. This was what we'd been waiting for. Can I tell you something? I said as we walked. That day in your office, when you kissed me, that was my first kiss with a guy. He stopped walking, turning to face me. Seriously. Seriously. I mean, I'd known I was gay for a while, and I'd come out and everything, but I'd never actually dated anyone. Never kissed anyone. You were my first. His expression softened. I wish I'd known. I would have. I don't know. Made it more special somehow. It was perfect, I said honestly. It was exactly what I needed it to be. He pulled me closer, right there on the sidewalk with people walking past us. Can I kiss you again? Now that I'm not your instructor and we're not breaking any rules? I thought you'd never ask. This kiss was different from the first one. Less tentative, more sure. He kissed me like he meant it, like he'd been waiting months for this moment. His hands cupped my face, and I wrapped my arms around his waist, and for a few perfect seconds, the rest of the world disappeared. When we broke apart, there was a group of college girls nearby who started clapping and cheering. We both laughed, embarrassed but happy. Come on, Ezra said, taking my hand again. Let's get out of here before we become a spectacle. We ended up at his apartment, a small 1-bedroom near the university. He made us coffee, and we sat on his couch talking until past midnight. At some point, talking turned into kissing again, and kissing turned into me, lying back against the cushions with him above me, his weight pressing me down in the best possible way. "Is this okay?" he whispered against my lips. "We can slow down if you want." I don't want to slow down. And I didn't. I'd been waiting for this, for him, and I was done waiting. Later, lying tangled together in his bed, I traced patterns on his chest and felt more content than I could remember feeling in years. "What are you thinking?" he asked, his fingers running through my hair. "That I'm really glad I stayed after class that day. That I'm really glad I was brave enough to tell you the truth." "Me too." He kissed the top of my head. "Best decision I ever made, offering to teach you CPR." I laughed. You know I never actually learned it properly that day. We got a little distracted. Guess I'll have to give you private lessons. Lots of them. For safety reasons, of course. Of course. Very important safety reasons. We fell asleep like that, wrapped around each other, the beginning of something real and true and ours. And when I woke up the next morning to sunlight streaming through his windows and his arms still around me, I knew I'd found something worth waiting for. The swim coach had said I needed mouth-to-mouth training. Turns out, he was right. I just didn't know how much I'd needed it until he showed me.